Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the We Love Your Arsenal YouTube channel once again. It's a bit of an emergency transfer video we're doing today because of certain news that has come out. Thomas Partey and Mohamed El Neni both sustaining injuries. Obviously, we knew about the Partey one. We didn't know that it was going to be as severe as severe as it is being reported as. It's still said to be minor, which is what the report said, but it looks like he's going to be out for a few weeks at least. The Mohamed El Neni injury, though, is throwing a spanner in the works after, top of the league, everything's going brightly. And then this happens, which leaves us very light in midfield. Mohamed El Neni set to be out for a substantial period. Rob has written a piece on this, so early plug, go and check that out in the description, or go and check out the website in the description. You'll find it there. And we're basically going to discuss what Rob said in his piece, essentially. Mohamed El Neni is clearly the plan B6 at the moment. I don't want to say, because I like the guy, but I don't want to say it's a blessing in disguise. But it could be a blessing in disguise, this, because it's forcing our hand. It's going to force us to go out and sign a central midfielder. And the likelihood is there'll be an upgrade on Mohamed El Neni. So even if the pain in the short term, like the immediate short term, we may be forced to use Sambi Lokonga as the 6, which, as much as I like Sambi Lokonga and I see promise, there's a bit of worry there because last season he looked a bit overwhelmed. But from Mohamed El Neni's performance on the weekend, where every single pass was not progressive, if Sambi should surely be an upgrade on that, even if he gives the ball away a bit more. Anyway, Rob, there are a few solutions we're looking at in the transfer market. It's obvious we're going to sign someone, so we're going to go through some of them in this video. We'll start with what you described as the sensible solution in your piece, one that we have been linked with a little bit previously in the window, but not major links at the moment. Florian Grillitsch is available on a free transfer after being released by Hoffenheim, or his contract ended. Yeah, talk to me about that option. How would you feel about that?
I think sort of out of the three that I discussed in the piece, which we'll sort of get into as the video progresses, I think it would probably be the least sort of exciting one. I think it would be fair to say. I think I've been speaking to Mac on the Extra Cannon podcast about this. He seemed very excited by the play. He's not someone that I've watched extensively, but statistically, he does profile very similarly to Granit Xhaka. Mac thinks he's a bit more mobile and can sort of do a bit more of sort of the turning that Thomas Partey say does in the Arsenal midfield that Granit Xhaka can't do. So yeah, I think that one is sort of the one we explore if finances really are very tight. If we genuinely are worried about this financial fair play, this is one that would make sense. And then we could even move for a winger as well. I think this Ukrainian boy is the one being talked about most at the moment, like Merkim Murdik, I think his name is. So maybe we could do both of those deals if we got Grillitsch in as a free agent. I can't imagine, even though he is a free agent, I can't imagine he'd demand astronomical wages because he is sort of, well, he's not a household name, is he? But by all accounts, he's been a very good midfielder in the Bundesliga over the course of the last 5 seasons with Hoffenheim. And probably if we can do some sort of short-term deal, 1-2 year, it would be something worth exploring. He's an Austrian international. I think probably worth the gamble if the finances are tight. But if we think we can do a bit more, I'd probably prefer us to go elsewhere.
Yeah, I think the good thing about him is if we can't get someone in the next few days, it's very possible he's still a free agent. So there's less of a rush on it. Ideally, I do think we get someone in as quickly as possible so they can come straight into the team for United on Sunday. The thing about Grillitsch is he hasn't really had a pre-season because he's not been at a club. So could he just slot in immediately, or would he need time to bed in? And the thing is, we need someone very immediately because Thomas Partey will be back in sort of 2-3 weeks, hopefully. So it's an immediate short-term need. I think he is. I think he's significantly better defensively than Granit Xhaka, and he's more able to play in that 6 role. He's a really good tackler. You watch the comps, profile statistically brilliantly, tackling wise. He played a lot at centre back last season for Hoffenheim. Vinay, our tactical analyst on WeLoveYourArsenal.co.uk, actually wrote a piece in the summer of 2020, and I remember it. And he tasked me with creating the it was about centre mid targets, and he tasked me with creating the data visualizations for them. I created a radar for Grilic back then because he wanted to write about Grilic. So he suggested him then. I think he was 24, almost 25 at that point. I would be up for this if I'm not sure he would be up for a short term. Maybe he would. Maybe he'd be like, I'll take a 1 year deal. I've not got a club. Then if I play a season at Arsenal next season, I'll be able to go for a free transfer again somewhere else. But maybe he's looking for more of a long-term contract. But I would definitely take him on a 1 year deal. I think that's an easy deal we can get done. He's very good on the ball as well. I think, as you said, press resistant. He can turn away from players and receive the ball on the half turn like Partey does. I think it's a really good shout. We're going to discuss some of the others though. I think we'll leave Ibrahima Sangare, who I think both of us have said and made clear will probably be our dream long-term replacement for Thomas Partey. Go and watch him on the YouTube if you don't know much about him. I know comps don't show you everything, but he's basically Partey but potentially better. So good. I think he's better at carrying the ball than Thomas Partey. I think it seems a bit unfeasible in the last few days because it's been more complicated, probably more expensive deal to do. He's just signed a new contract to PSV. I want to talk about Yuri Tielemans because obviously we've been linked with him for ages and he was the target, I think, for the 8 position, for the left 8. I think he's more viable as a 6 than a lot of people do. I think particularly against lesser sides, we dominate the ball. Partey's role is mainly ball progression and evading a press. He doesn't do too much defensive work generally. And Yuri Tielemans, that's like one of his greatest qualities. If you watch the Arsenal Vision scouting video, you see he's so good at receiving the ball in deep areas and turning away from pressure and getting the ball up the pitch. That's what he's good at. And I think we could use him in that role against lesser opposition, against better teams. If Partey's unavailable, you can switch to a bit more of a double pivot with Xhaka, sorry. So I think if we do decide that's the solution, I know a lot of people are going to say from the offset that he can't play as a 6, but I think it would make sense as well. What do you think of Tielemans, Rob?
Yeah, that was actually another thing I sort of covered. I know a lot of people are worried about whether he'd be able to do that 6 role, but I think it's perhaps a bit overemphasized sort of how difficult it is. I just think in the squad at the moment, we just don't really have players like Thomas Partey who have the sort of technical quality in the engine room to play in that sort of area. And one thing about Yuri Tielemans is that he's a very intelligent player. He pops up in really, really nice spaces and in deep spaces, and that's really the Thomas Partey's sort of job. Popping up in helpful areas and then progressing the ball from there. He's got more mobility about him than Granit Xhaka, so if needed, he can carry the ball forward. I think it is a viable option to play him there when necessary. It's sort of akin to what, and again, alluding to my piece, it's sort of similar to how City have treated Ilkay Gundogan over the last few seasons. He is very much a left 8. That is where he plays his best football, but he can play as a 6 if needed. I mean, he infamously played there in the Champions League final, and that was bizarre. But
just to say on the Tielemans thing, he played 25% of his minutes last season as a defensive midfielder, according to Scott on Twitter. Oh, that crap.
So yeah, it is something that he can do. I think long term, as an Arsenal player, he would definitely be occupying the more offensive roles. But, it'd be an exciting option. And as we have spoken about a lot throughout the summer, he's definitely capable of playing within a double pivot. So, if shit is really hitting the fan and he's playing as a lone 6 and we realise, okay, we need to change something here, it's fine. Just pull Granit Xhaka back and adjust tactically. It's something that we definitely would be able to cope with.
Yeah, and there's a few more I'd like to touch on. Some players are being rumoured with, but yeah, I do think Tielemans would be an easy one to get done.
Well, especially
But
considering the contact has just been there throughout the summer, I think it makes it the most feasible and most likely.
and surely the fee has dropped down to like a pretty good price now for his age and profile and Premier League experience. And we spoke about Grealish. Would he be able to slot in if we sign Tielemans tomorrow or on Thursday on deadline day? He'd be able to come straight in and start against United. He's had the pre-season. He's been playing for Leicester. Um, tactically, we were able to integrate him pretty quickly. A few more that we have been linked with, in the last few hours. Don't know how credible these sources are. Leandro Paredes, from PSG. This is a player I think there's a loan that's being talked about. I think would make sense. I think he's a player. If you want someone who's going to play line breaking passes and will fill in for Partey in that role, I think he's probably better than Partey with those passes. His passing range is beautiful. Like I remember a game in Project Restart when PSG got to the Champions League final. I was watching, and he was like playing most of their games, and his passing was exceptional in that period. And again, very press resistant. I don't think he has the defensive output of Thomas Partey, but as we said, it's not as big a priority. And could he fill in for a few games there and then play more as a left eight and then play as the six in the Europa League games? I think he'd be more than capable of doing that. So I think that would be a smart move as well. Any thoughts on Paredes?
Again, my sort of opinion of him derives from that Project Restart when PSG were playing in the Champions League. You're right, his passing is so crisp. And I think he's probably better than Arthur Melo, but it sort of reminds me of those rumours, just sort of a guy who has good technical quality and would be able to come in and do a job. But it does sound like for some reason Paredes would rather go to Juventus, even though that club is in disarray. Bizarre, all these players we're linked with rather going to Juventus, similar to Vlahovic. But yeah, I think it's another nice option. I think really that's just what we're looking for: someone who can pass the ball. But the only thing is obviously that these injuries of Thomas Partey, this probably won't be the only one he has this season. So I don't know if that's influencing the club's thinking of maybe going for a more, player who has a bit more experience playing as a six, but it's so late in the window now. I think we've just got to get what we can take in terms of just go for some proper technical quality and go from there.
Yeah, I think when we look at the project, like obviously Paredes and Grealish, for example, don't necessarily fit the long-term plan. Like I don't think they're both 27, 28. But I think this injury has thrown a spanner in the works, and I think if we can get that stopgap solution for one season and next summer we go for someone like Sangare, I think that would be it makes sense to me. And Paredes on loan, I'd fully back that. And as you alluded to earlier, the Paredes or Grealish would allow us to then go in for a winger as well, which we have said so many times on this show that we desperately need. One final little rumour that I saw literally just before we click record. Danilo at Palmeiras, who we were linked with for quite a while, very early in the summer, might even have been like towards the end of last season. Apparently that's resurfacing now. This is a player we know less about than the players we've discussed so far. I'm not going to claim I know a whole lot about him. I've heard previously that he is a 6. So that suits what we're going for, obviously. Any thoughts on that? Because I can't say enough about the player. If we'd had more time to research him before this video, I would. But I literally saw the rumour, so I thought I'd mention it just before we started filming.
Again, I'm not an expert on Brazilian football, but I think the age profile is potentially interesting, potentially indicative of the club maybe thinking long term Sambi is going to be that left eight rather than a six. Potentially, we don't know. But it's interesting that that sort of perhaps is suggesting that the club are thinking, okay, Thomas Partey, I don't think we can rely on him long term. So maybe we get someone who is young, and I know this was sort of the idea from Sambi, but Sambi's still a really good player, and I think we'll be able to contribute in different areas. Maybe we're looking just at that sort of thing, using Edu's contacts, getting a really promising young player in, and sort of going from there. But yeah, I'm not sure sort of what he can offer, but Europa League would be a good opportunity for him to sort of adapt to European football as a young Brazilian footballer.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, and we'll see what happens because it's going to be resolved hopefully within the next sort of 48 hours. We have an update from Transfer Checker. If you don't know Transfer Checker on Twitter, he's reliable. It's mental how these things are breaking quickly. This afternoon, Edu Gasper held talks with representatives of Palmeiras holding midfielder Danilo Pereira and Shakhtar Donetsk winger Michailo Mudryk. That's how you say his name, I think. Also still in contract with agent of Watford's João Pedro. No indication if they're primary targets, but they're on the radar. So we'll see. It looks like there's going to be some movement, late movement. Hopefully, maybe we even do a live stream. How about that on deadline day? We'll see. But there's going to be some movement in the final days of the window. And we'll be here on We Love You Arsenal YouTube channel. So subscribe to the channel, like the video, share it, comment, whatever. And yeah, this is the home of the greatest Arsenal content on YouTube. So you'd be missing out if you didn't subscribe. See you later.
Goodbye.